If I could say so myself, this episode of the I Am Rapaport Stereo Podcast is already fantastic. I am smiling so much during this episode because I want to make sure people understand how happy I am. What else is going on? Harvard. I never thought that I would need to speak about Harvard, UPenn, MIT, or Columbia University. I never thought, never paid attention to, never cared about these places in my life. I never thought that I would have to talk about Miranda from Sex and the City publicly. I never thought that in the last few days, I would publicly go after B-Rock Obama or Warriors head coach Steve Kerr, who I love. I loved him as a player. I love his story. The time I met him, I talked about it on the I Am Rapaport Stereo Podcast. I love the Warriors. But this week, because of the Harvard situation, which let me remind people where everything is at, how we got here with Harvard. Obviously, October 7th happened, and Harvard is supposed to be the best of the best. Harvard's a brand. Coke, Pepsi, Gatorade, Harvard, Nike, M&M's. You know the deal. Harvard is a brand. It's a brand. It's the top of the top. When you think of Harvard, you think of elite, smart, Ivy League. This has got to be the best of the best. That's what we've been told. It's the best of the best. The best of the best of the best. And of course, October 7th happened. And because they're so smart at Harvard, October 8th, they were out there protesting. How and why they were protesting at Harvard October 8th, I don't know. They're so smart. They must have known something. They must have known something because they were out there, boom. While the bodies and the situation was still being sorted out in Israel, Harvard was out there protesting, celebrating, laughing, bringing out their drums. They're out there playing their, it looks like a Coachella. It's funny that I said Coachella because it's week 2 of Coachella and October 7th. Can you imagine if week 2 at Coachella, well, Travis Scott is performing and Charlie XCO or whatever the her name is and Billie Eilish were on stage or Taylor Swift or whoever's out there, Tyler the Creator, Doshi, or Alicia Keys, I think she's performing. Can you imagine it? Week 2 of Coachella, if while all the kids, your kids, even parents with kids, were at Coachella getting ready to watch Alicia Keys or Charlie XCX or Billie Eilish, if paragliders from Mexico with machine guns and rockets started landing and trucks from Mexico broke through the border and they started mowing down everybody at Coachella, can you imagine how you would feel? Can you imagine the response from the United States? Can you imagine the response from the world? If at Coachella week 2, 2025, while you're partying, drinking this, that, and the third, you're popping pills and getting ready to watch Alicia Keys or Billie Eilish. If paragliders came in and animals came in from Mexico or anywhere, let's just say they came in from San Diego, or let's say they came in from Los Angeles for whatever reason, who cares? You wouldn't care what their reason or agenda was. You wouldn't care what their rationale or their feelings were. You'd go, oh my God. Oh my God. This is horrible. And wait, not only are they killing and raping people, they're kidnapping people from Coachella. And not only kidnapping, raping, murdering people from Coachella. They're kidnapping, raping, and murdering people from the surrounding areas of Coachella. Out there in the valley in Palm Springs, they're going into homes and taking people and killing them and raping them and doing whatever they want. Can you imagine the response? What would the response be? What would your response be? You'd be like, get those people back ASAP. Find the people that did it and kill them all. That's what you'd say. You wouldn't go, well, maybe they have a thought or opinion. Maybe we should listen to and try to understand. No, you'd say, get these suckers and bury these motherfuckers. Wouldn't you say that? That's what you would say if anything like that happened at Coachella. If anything similar happened at Coachella week 2, 2025. The same way it happened October 7th, 2023, when they paraglided in, when they burst through the borders and they started doing whatever they want and started kidnapping. And when they brought them back to their hole, what did you see? We didn't see people going, why is there a dead girl on the back of that truck? Wait, why is there a dead guy on the back of that motorcycle? Wait, why are there civilians on the back of that truck? What'd you see? You saw people celebrating, laughing, cheering, Allahu Akbar. Yes, yes, yes. That's what you saw. How would you feel if this was happening after Coachella week 2, 2025? I bet you wouldn't be looking for excuses or rationale as to why and how the animals perpetrated what they perpetrated. And how would you feel if that happened week 2 of Coachella 2025 and 560 days later, they still have people that they kidnapped from Coachella? How would you feel? I don't need to guess or even ask the question of how you would feel. It wouldn't be a conversation. We'd all be on the same page, just like we were all on the same page post 9/11. Everybody was on the same page. Find them and eradicate them, unlive them. And if there's casualties, sorry, there were casualties of 9/11 when you were trying to make your point. There were plenty of casualties there. When they broke in Osama bin Laden's house, Osama bin Laden wasn't the only one they put down. Casualties. That's what happens. That's what happens. Unfortunately, that's what happens. But on these college campuses, October 8th and beyond, specifically Harvard, we're gonna stick with Harvard this week. There was celebrations, there were marches, there were professors out there saying all these things. And at the time, there were so many American hostages. Harvard didn't condemn the attacks of October 7th. Harvard didn't demand or condemn the taking of American hostages. Harvard didn't stop the harassment and bullying of Jewish students on campus. Harvard didn't do anything while these geeks, let me tell you something, these Harvard students, you're a bunch of geeks. We need to make bullying great again. We've given them too much leeway, too much thoughts, too much feelings. Make bullying great again. These geeks on Harvard campus, bullying, harassing, and talking about globalize the intifada. And Harvard didn't stop it. The encampments, Harvard didn't stop it. The bullying, Harvard did nothing. And anybody who's got any questions about what an intifada is, an intifada, what it actually is, you could go, well, they mean this, they mean that. They maybe see, this is that Palestinian bull. That's that terrorist mentality. Well, if you look up in the dictionary, nah, mother. When Yasser Arafat called for an intifada, he meant kill the Jews. Kill them all. And that's what happened. Intifada 1, Intifada 2. Israel buses being blown up, cafes being blown up. So when you talk about globalize the intifada, this is not a chant. This is not a kumbaya. This is not Teddy Pendergrass, wake up, everybody, see you peep. This is not any of that. This is not, we are the world. This is not. This is kill the Jews by any means necessary. Intifada means kill, injure, and attack Jews. That's what it means. It might not mean that to you geeks on Harvard campus, but that's what it means to the people who actually took action when Yasser Arafat and them called for the Intifada 1 and the Intifada 2. You're calling globalizing Intifada. That means you're looking to kill me if I'm Jewish. Harvard did nothing about any of this. And then, of course, there were the Congress hearings, and I believe it was December of 2023, where Elise Stefanik, who I don't even know what state she represents. I'm gonna be fully honest. Right now, I don't even know what state she represents. But if she ever is in my presence, I might cry for what she did that day when she held their feet to the fire, Claudine Gay and that McGill from UPenn and MIT. That Elise Stefanik, you are invited to Shabbat dinner. You're invited over for a grilled cheese on a Monday. If I ever see Elise Stefanik on the side of the road, it's a blizzard. She got a flat tire. I'm pulling over. Take my car. You deserve it. Those Congress hearings, UPenn, MIT, Harvard, and the rest of them, when she was specifically asking these women, they were all women, McGill, that Claudine Gay, about the calling for genocide of Jews, the bullying of harassment on college campuses, specifically Harvard, and that's what they are, these scumbags. We're talking about context. Depends on the context. What is the context? If they say something and then action takes place, and this, that, and the third, and it was embarrassing. And these are the leaders of your universities, Harvard, Columbia, UPenn, MIT, and they're all gone now. They either resigned, got fired, or stepped down, except for that Claudine Gay. She still teaches it. She's still getting paid by Harvard. And Columbia University was told by Trump and the Trump regime, these things need to happen. Otherwise, your federal funding goes to the dumps. These things need to happen. Otherwise, we're not going to continue to fund these anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, anti-Zionist, anti-Israel, so-called smart universities. And this week, the Trump administration, they said, we have 9 demands. These are the things that we want to happen. These are the things that we want to happen. Otherwise, we're pulling your federal funding, your money, your tax-paying money, my money, your money, $2.2 billion federal tax-paying dollars. Remember, it's your money. 2.2 billion, people like the homeless, the disenfranchised. $2.2 billion of your money goes to Harvard. And Trump said, if this doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen, and all these things based on the Civil Rights Act of 1965, and all these things that we've seen with our own eyes, calling for the intifada, campuses being taken over, bullying, harassment, there's lawsuits from students, this, that, we've all seen it. And like I said, they started October 8th. Why? How they knew to start on October 8th? I don't know. Maybe they're just so smart. The smartest of the smart. Bunch of geeks. Geeks. At Harvard. They started while the bodies were still being sorted out. In Israel, $2.2 billion in federal funding will be pulled. And this isn't a private university. See, if it was a private university, you could do what you want. You can have people on the Harvard campus calling for anything you want. Intifadas, KKK. Hey, it's a private university. Let the KKK march, freedom of speech. We got a group of people, we got 150 people. They think that anybody that owns a cat or a dog is a piece of shit. And they wanna bully them. We want an intifada against anybody that owns a cat or a dog. Do all that. Do anything you want on Harvard campus. If it's private, you ain't private. You got $53 billion in endowment money. We're not going to take your $2.2 billion. We're going to stay independent. We're not going to listen to the Trump administration. All right, well then fuck you and your $2.2 billion. They don't need the $2.2 billion. I say Trump and the administration, do something good with it. Give it to the people. Give it to the people in need. Harvard. They got $53 billion in endowment money. They will get that $2.2 billion somewhere else. Maybe from Qatari. Maybe from Iran. But they'll get that $2.2 billion. Don't give them the money. But it came down to a situation. Either you're a private university and you could do what you want. You want people on campus saying black people should be doing this, that, or the third. Gay people should be doing this, that, or the third. Dog owners should be doing this, that, or the third. Trans people should be doing this, that, or the third. Do what you want, but you ain't taking my money. Harvard, smart ass, pencil pushing geek, geniuses over there. You know the drill. You're not a private university. If you're a private university, you wouldn't need that 2.2 of federal tax money. Now you're going to lose your tax exempt status. It's like some kind of scheme over there. You don't want to listen to what the people who are giving you the money say. You want to have tax exempt status. That's not how it works. Money talks, bull walks. You'll make up that money somewhere else, knock yourself out. Knock yourself out. But I'll tell you something. What's been going on the Harvard campus is not a Trump thing. Them pulling the $2.2 billion in federal funding, this is not a Trump thing. This is a response, the proper response, the appropriate response, the only response to a non-private university who is getting $2.2 billion of federal funding, tax-exempt status. You don't want to deal with the harassment and the bullying of Jewish students on your campus? You don't want to do that? Well, then you don't get money. You're like a little kid. You don't do what you're supposed to do in school. You don't get to go out on the weekend. You don't do what you do in school. You don't get to drive mom and dad's car. Get it, Harvard? You're smart. You guys are smart over there, right? But after Harvard said, we're not going to take the $2.2 billion. We're not going to be told what to do. We're not going to be bullied by the Trump regime. They didn't say Trump, but this all comes down to blinded by everything that has to do with Trump Republicans. I know you're saying, yo, Rap, you were calling him Dick Stain Donald Trump. Yo, Rap, you were calling him Pig Dick Donald Trump. Yeah, that was then and this is now. You think I'm supposed to stay the same? People are like, you changed. Yes, I've changed. I've changed as a person immensely. In the last 10 years, I'm proud, I'm happy that I've changed as a person. I got more change to do. I got more growth to do. I got more information and education to get into my brain. I got to fix my tone. I got to fix my habits. Of course, I've changed as a person. Have you been red-pilled? You flip-flopped. Fuck no, this ain't about red pills and flip-flops. This is about right and wrong. And that's where Obama, Steve Kerr, and the rest of them, they can't see past it. Their own personal hatred of anything that has the R word, Republican, and obviously their own personal hatred and disdain and disgust towards Trump. They can't even make an objective decision about what is right and wrong. What's happening at Harvard, what's happening at these campuses is wrong. period. And I will say it, scream it, stand by, and not back down from that. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't give a if it's Trump Jr., Barron Trump, Ivanka Trump. I don't care who it is. It's about right and wrong. They're calling for the genocide of Jews. There's harassment, bullying on your campus, and you're not doing anything to stop it by any means necessary. Your $2.2 billion. And Barack Obama, he tweeted out, Harvard has set an example for other high education institutions rejecting unlawful. It's unlawful. Obama, it's unlawful to take federal funding for a private university? It's a private university. What do you need federal funding for? It's unlawful, Barack Obama said. It's unlawful to do that while taking concrete steps to make sure all students at Harvard could benefit from an environment of intellectually and righteous. There's no debate. Because if they were calling for the genocide of black students, if they were harassing and bullying black students on the Harvard campus, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, the daughters, the cousins, they'd be out there protesting themselves. Themselves. You got the audacity. You like that word audacity, Obama? You got the audacity to make this a political thing? You got the audacity to make this a political situation? If this had people, short people, tall people, curly head people, Puerto Ricans, anybody else was being harassed, bullied, and the threat and celebration of the genocide of those people on the Harvard campus, Barack Obama wouldn't be talking that. You you. And of course, the cavalry of all the other people, Bernie Sanders, AOC, this Trump-hating person, this Republican-hating person, this Democrat-hating person, this left, all of them, they all came in, yay, Harvard. Yay, Harvard, stand strong. Don't be bullied by the administration, stand strong. They all came in. But when I saw Obama doing that, I had to tweet back. I tweeted. I never thought I would tweet at Barack Obama, let alone something disparaging. And I said, F out of here, you're a joke. You and your wife would be on the front lines if the same vile hate was happening towards black people, let alone any other people besides Jewish people, FOH, which means fuck out of here, Barack Obama. Shame on you again and again. Now say free the hostages, which you haven't said in 560 days. Say free the hostages, Barack Obama. You haven't said it once. Say free the hostages, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, with your big, bleeding, caring hearts. Say free the hostages and stick to posting musical playlists that nobody gives a shit about what you're listening to, Barack Obama. Say free the hostages. I don't fucking read, oh, this new song by Bruce Springsteen. It's so great. And you know, I'm so cool. Have you heard that new song by Doechii? I don't give a about your playlist. Say free the hostages. You. You and Michelle Obama? I'm going to post my spring playlist. Me and Michelle, we like Sexy Red. I know some of her words are kind of inappropriate at times. But there's a couple of tunes that we like by Sexy Red. We're hip. We're cool. Say free the hostages, Michelle, Barack Obama. Jews and Israel's enough for make people to talk crazy. Jews, Israel, and Trump, forget it. Because Steve Kerr's father was killed in cold blood by terrorists at the American University in Beirut. So to see him side and make a public statement supporting all the things I just broke down, supporting Harvard turning into a free-for-all, a celebratory pisshole campus of geeks and bullies harassing, tormenting, and bullying Jews was really just disappointing from someone who I respect and respected. I don't know if I've lost all respect for him, but I've certainly lost an amount of respect for Steve Kerr for wearing that Harvard t-shirt, a subliminal support for Harvard. Like they're the little guy. Oh, they're the little guy. They're standing up to the university with their $53 billion in endowment money. They're not going to take the $2.2 billion from the Trump administration. They're not going to take the $2.2 billion of federal money that you're paying for. They're just the little guy standing up to the big bully and the Trump administration. Steve Kerr, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're misinformed. Or maybe you're not misinformed. Maybe you're just down with Jew hate. Maybe you're comfortable with people saying globalize the intifada, which is crazy coming from you, knowing what happened to your father. And I say that with all due respect. And of course, there's all these goofies, and I've been reluctant to really finger point at other actors or actresses who have been wrong, misinformed, fake little poets. Like, I'm a poet. I do ceramics. I'm sweet. I'm a sweet guy. I'm a sweet, poetic actor. I speak softly and I care. I have a big heart. I have a big heart. I read and I do ceramics. I've been reluctant to criticize people in my business, my coworkers, my fellow SAG actors in the last year and a half, the last 560 days. And it is today 560 days. There are still 59 hostages in Gaza. 24 of them are believed to be alive. But to see these actors who present themselves as caring, thoughtful, loving people wear terrapins that pin the hand with the red on it. You know what the red is? The blood. You know where that pin was inspired by? A terrorist that killed Jews and showed his blood-stained hands to the crowd, and people cheered. Other terrorists cheered the terrorist, and they all wore it. Guy Pearce, Australian, so eloquently talks about his understanding and deep, deep compassion for the people in Gaza. He understands it deeply. He wears the pin and he speaks calmly, and because he's so compassionate. Guy Pearce, the actor, Australian. There's not a lot of racism in Australia, is there? No, that's not a thing in Australia. It never have been, right? Guy Pearce just talks about it. He knows it intrinsically, Guy Pearce. He wears the red pin with the handprint with the blood on it. The handprint of the blood of Jews. He wears that because they're misunderstood. These are people that have been through everything. You understand that so intrinsically, Guy Pearce, and all these podcasters and this guy Dave Smith. They're compassionate. They understand. I don't know why these podcasters, all you podcasters, Dave Smith, you're making so much money off your anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish views, and you talk about your compassion. Dave Smith, you better hope, pray nothing ever comes out about the way you treat anybody because you're so compassionate. His whole thing comes back, well, I know this fact and I know this fact. And it's just the compassionate thing. Him, Ian Carroll, and these other scumbags, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic. Why don't any of you podcasters, you're all making money off this conflict. Why don't you fly to Israel? Fly to Israel right now. Get on a plane. You can afford first class. You're profiting hand over fist, Dave Smith. Go to Israel. Go right to Judea, Samaria. Go to Jenin. You know where it is. You know the history. You know all about it. Go to Jenin or Ramallah right now. Bring cash, shekels, and sit down and interview some of these terrorists that have just gotten out of jail for hostages. Sit down some of these terrorists who have committed murders and violence and have them on your podcast. You can give them some money. Get yourself an Airbnb in Ramallah or Jenin. Bring some money. You can interview all these people. You want to understand the conflict? You don't have to interview any Jews. Go right to Judea Samaria, go right to Jenin and talk to the source. Because you're so smart. You have all these points of views. You read this and you got that quote, and you guys spin cycle. You're like 3-card Monty playing bullshit artists, Jew haters. You spin words beautifully. Why don't you go interview some of the terrorists? There's hundreds of them. Go interview some of the terrorists that you feel like you understand and have so much compassion for. I don't understand why none of these activists, free Palestine this, free Palestine that, 560 days. Now, one of these scumbags who's online has brought their ass to Judea Samaria and been close to the people they feel like and they say they understand and have such compassion for. Bring money. You don't have to even have them on you. Give them money. Go give the terrorists that you love money. Go find that. Well, he's dead. But go find one of his cousins or his family, Guy Pearce, that pin that you wore with the bloodstained hand. Go give the guy money. He's had a hard life. He must have had a hard life. That's why why else would he kill Jews? Because he had such a hard life. He was so oppressed. Go give him money. And Miranda, the most boring character on Sex and the City, Miranda, Cynthia Nixon, LGBTQ supporter, I believe, allegedly she's married to a transsexual woman. Fantastic. I believe she said she has transsexual LGBTQ people in her family and possibly kids, I believe, allegedly. Miranda is another person I never thought I would be tweeting that. I could give two about Miranda. She's the worst and the most boring out of all the women on Sex in the City. Miranda's not that dude. Miranda this week showed up for a press conference for the spinoff of Sex in the City, and it had to be custom made. She had a custom made shirt with the green and the red. She had a red triangle facing down, and she went and wore it for and just like that, press junket. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was allowed to wear a shirt with the red triangle. I wonder if Miranda realizes that red triangle pointing down, what that symbolizes to the people that you say you love, adore, and understand so deeply, Miranda. That red triangle is what Hamas uses in their videos to show targets of people that they have killed or want to kill. And she's allowed to wear that on a press junket for and just like that, openly gay Miranda with her openly gay kids and her openly gay wife. Do you have any idea, lady, what would happen to you if you went to Jenin or Ramallah? Why the are you doing press junkets? Cosplaying chic terrorist costumes with a red triangle that symbolizes the death and the target of Jews in Israel. You're wearing that? She couldn't have bought that at Bloomingdale's or Gimbel's. She had to get that custom made. You got that custom made. You love and understand these people so much. You know what would happen to your redheaded LGBTQ ass in Judea Samaria, Miranda, and your wife and your family members? You're like, well, who am I to impose my white privilege? My privilege, I'm just there to support my white privilege. I know I'm so privileged. I don't want to project my privileged point of views onto these people. They have been through so much that I just support them. Even if they don't support me, even if they would throw me off a building or drag me, my wife, and my family on the back of the truck, I support them because I have a big, loving, compassionate heart. Fuck you, Miranda. Fuck you, Miranda, and the horse you rode in on. And then finally, Joe Rogan. Who everybody respects Joe Rogan. How could you not? If you love MMA, you love UFC, he's as much of the UFC as Dana White's part of the UFC, as much of the UFC as any fighter. He is the UFC. Podcasting, he's OG of this. He has these people on his show. Joe Rogan loves a conspiracy theory. That's fine. You want to talk about UFOs. You want to talk about deep-seated RFK. You want to, I love all that. But since October 7th, he has anybody come on there and just float ideas. This Dave Smith, this Ian Carroll, this other bald-headed mustache guy. They're like three-card Monty people. I'm telling you, these guys are pimps. These guys are hustlers because they spin words beautifully. I wish I could spin words as beautifully as some of the people that Joe Rogan has had on his podcast since October 7th. They are eloquent bullshit artists, eloquent three-card Monty players. You ever play three-card Monty in New York? You always feel violated afterwards. That's the same thing when you listen to these scumbags on Joe Rogan. But Joe Rogan be like, it's an open discussion. We're just floating ideas. We're not married to them being facts or not facts, and they don't have to be experts. We're having a talk. We're just having a talk. I'm smoking a cigar. Sometimes I smoke weed. We're just talking. That's Joe Rogan's series. And it's great for everything, except for facts. It's great for everything, except for people that are disparaging week after week, podcast after podcast, and not telling the truth and the reality of what has happened October 7th and beyond. So you bring on one scumbag after the next scumbag. And they say, well, I'm not an expert. I'm a comedian. I'm not an expert, but I know this. I'm not an expert on Hitler, but I'm not an expert on Churchill, but I'm not an expert on the conflict in the Middle East, but here's all of my thoughts. I'm a comedian, but we're not going to do any jokes. We're not going to talk comedy. I'm just going to expound on all my thoughts. Joe Rogan will have all these people come on and talk about history, Israel, Jews, genocide, and Hamas. But if I came on Joe Rogan, I was like, Joe, I'm an MMA fan. I've never been in a ring. He would say, have you ever, worked out MMA? No, I haven't done it. But do I have to do it to be an expert? Do I have to actually spar MMA to really know what it's like to spar MMA? Do I have to? Can't I just? It's my opinion. I've talked to some fighters, and my brother and I, we used to pillow fight. Joe, my brother would use the heavy pillow, and when he hit me with that heavy pillow a couple times, it hurt. So I know what it's like to get hit in the head. Not like by John Jones, but I know what it's like to get hit in the head. But Joe, listen. I'm thinking, because my brother, after we would have pillow fights, sometimes we would do the choke out game where I would let him choke me to sleep, and then he'd wake me up and I'd laugh and I'd be like, oh my God, that was so crazy. And then afterwards we'd continue fighting or wrestling or doing what we do. I think Joe Rogan, when these fighters get choked out, tap them awake, give them a standing 8 count. If they want to keep fighting, let them keep fighting. Wouldn't that be so exciting, Joe? Wouldn't the crowd go crazy? If one fighter gets choked out, you give him a standing 8 count, then they come back and win. Joe Rogan will be like, what the are you talking about? You have no idea what you're talking about. Have you ever been choked out? No. Have you ever been in a UFC cage? No, it's just my thoughts. It's my ideas. It's my opinion. Joe Rogan would be like, what the he wouldn't, the conversation would be over. If somebody came on Joe Rogan Podcast and started talking about, the second show on a Friday night, it's not that bad. I don't know why comics, Steve Martin publicly wrote in his book, I don't know why you guys always complain about the second show Friday night. Have you ever been on stage second show Friday night? No. But have you ever done comedy? No. But he wouldn't entertain that. Churchill, World War II, Jews, Gaza, genocide, anything goes on Joe Rogan. It's irresponsible. You wouldn't have these sort of floating conversations or ideas about MMA because you're an expert on it. You know it. You live it. You created it. You've done it. Stand-up comedy, same. You wouldn't let people come in there and tell you about how a joke this and what it's like performing on the road versus different between performing in a theater, which is different from performing in an arena. You wouldn't let anybody have a conversation about it unless they've done it. You got these people on this Dave Smith. Douglas Murray asked him, when was the last time you've been to Israel? I've never been. If you've never been, I can't talk about it? Yeah, you could talk about it. But why don't you go, Dave Smith? Joe Rogan, you have all these people come on and talk. Why don't you go? You're Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan and Janine. The Joe Rogan Podcast, live from Judea, Samaria. Interview some of these terrorists. Interview some of the widows of IDF soldiers. Interview some of the hostages who've gotten out of Gaza. Talk to them, Joe Rogan, instead of talking to Dave Smith and the rest of these dum-dums. I'm out.
I am Rapaport Podcast.